Okay, so the other day I had this box arrive from Geekworm with all sorts of interesting products in it. I've already done a video on the Orange Pi 5 Plus case, but today it's more about Compute Module 4 and specifically this board, which is an HDMI in Compute Module 4 board. And on top of it you might have noticed this 12mm aluminium alloy heatsink, which is a C235, which is obviously designed to keep it cool. It also has provision that you can put a 30mm fan on it. It doesn't come with a fan, but you can put one on there should you need extra cooling. It comes with a thermal pad, but I've used thermal paste as it says here you get better results, and I've also found that to be the case with thermal paste. It supports various different boards, and I'm sure a lot more than this because it just goes through the 4 screw holes on the Compute Module 4. This is the 635 that I've got, and also you can see the 650 there as well. But let's have a look at the 635 because I think it's very interesting. So connectivity wise, we've got gigabit Ethernet, mini HDMI inputs. I prefer mini HDMI to micro, and obviously they could have gone full size HDMI, but there's not a lot of room on this tiny little board. We've got a USB 2 port, USB-C power input, and obviously you can use a standard Raspberry Pi adapter with that. Mini HDMI output as well. We've got an activity LED, micro SD slot, 26-pin expansion header, Compute Module 4 socket, more LEDs, 4-pin PoE header. We've got the little boot pins so that you can write an operating system to the eMMC drive, which I've had to do because I messed something up not reading any of the instructions. We've also got, really importantly, an M.2 slot on the bottom for a 2242 NVMe, and you can see they do various different packs. Which one did I get sent? So I've definitely got all of that, but I've also got an extra HDMI. Okay, so this is the pack with the 235 cooler. Didn't get a power supply. Yeah, so I guess this is the pack that I've been sent. So mini HDMI to HDMI cable, obviously to output it to a monitor. Although if you're using it headless, you would only need that one cable to come from the HDMI device that you're capturing from. A USB 2 data cable, so this is important for being able to write an operating system to the eMMC drive. So let's just show you how you capture in the most basic format. So I already have an image here, which is from my little Melee mini PC, but I also have a video here as well. And this is also captured from the Melee mini PC, although it's not moving, so I want to do a video where it is actually moving. You can see there where it comes on. And it can capture 1080-30. So let's try and show you that. So let's turn on my little mini PC. Let's just get it on a monitor, and I'll start playing some video so I can capture, because I haven't seen it capture moving pictures yet. I just tested it to see if it worked. So this is one of my own HDMI 2 minis rather than open up the new one that I've got. Let's plug that into the HDMI input on this little Compute Module 4 board and wait for this to start up, which it has. I use this little keyboard because I keep this for all the SBCs, and I guess just start playing a video. Okay, let's play this one, full screen, and I think it's probably already on 1080, it is. So now I can plug this cable in. I keep forgetting to mention it's Amazon Prime Day on July the 11th and 12th. If you sign up with one of my links, there's basically a 30-day free trial, which there always is on Amazon, but it's definitely worth doing before Prime Day because that's the only way you can get the exclusive offers, and there's always really good offers on all sorts of things. And if you click on one of my links and you end up buying something else, it still benefits the channel. Wake up the Compute Module 4, and if I open a terminal, and I've got a couple of the commands already in here, so RasPi vid, so you can see that it's now going to capture that video. Let's see how it comes through. Oh yeah, it looks alright coming through. So this is it, obviously in a monitoring stage at the moment, and then it will finish capturing that. I think I did it for 10 seconds was the way I did it, and then I've also got the still one here as well, which will just capture a still. Although on the preview, obviously you can see it showing the video. So I don't know what it does to the terminal on that, but it did that before. Now, has that saved that? Has that overwritten? It hasn't overwritten this. And has it overwritten this one? No. So these are the originals that are already there. Unless it's saving it somewhere else. Let's have a look. So there's video here. So it's capturing it in the root. Yeah. So that's capturing. See, it's not full frames, but it is capturing. But there are loads of other ways you can capture video and stills on this. Let's have a look at the still as well. In fact, did it save the still anywhere? I don't think it did, but I was messing about with all sorts of different settings before. So maybe that wasn't the one that captured the still. And if you look up Raspberry still, there are so many different functions that you can use. And obviously you can use it with Python. You can program it to be able to do things at different times, at different resolutions, at all sorts of different customization. There we go, Raspberry still from PyHut command list. So P's preview and O is output. If I go back to the software on here, so this is the command that they're asking you to use. So let's copy that in. Now we get a preview playing a different video, but hopefully we end up with a still image yet. It didn't come up with an error, and there's the image. So what happens if we try and write another one? Does it overwrite the original image, or does it create another one? Soon find out. Let's double click on that. So that you can see it overwrites the image, but the thumbnail is still showing the previous one. That's interesting. Let's try that again. There you go. So it flickered, but it didn't show the updated one, but this is the updated one. And as you can see, certainly detailed enough to get information from the device you're capturing from. Now I've used for ages one of these Ava media capture devices, which is just basically a press and it starts to capture, and press and it stops capturing. But that's pretty much all it does. It captures to an SD card, which I can then use in my iPad, which is perfect for me. But this is obviously much more about being able to completely control it, because it's controlled by Python, so you can hack it and play around with it and do whatever you want. Now I've definitely seen a few references to using the legacy version, the 32-bit legacy version of Raspberry Pi OS with this. So I think I'm going to try that. And in fact, that's what I tried to do before. And I'll show you what I tried to do before and what I did wrong. So late one night, treating the Compute Module 4 as I would a Raspberry Pi 4, because I've got much more experience with the Raspberry Pi 4. I put an SD card in to the SD card slot and didn't really think too much of it. Started up Raspberry Pi Imager and just selected Choose OS, Raspberry Pi Other. Found the legacy version, which should say it's cached on my computer, which it is now. Choose storage. Didn't even look, just clicked on that, but you can see here I just put a 64 gig micro SD card in my Compute Module 4. It's come up with 16 gig, and that's because it's the eMMC drive. Now I purposely have never used the eMMC drive on this Compute Module 4 because I want to use it with NVMe or SD or USB boot, and I just think it's less problematic. I mean, obviously if you're gonna, there's a great reason to use the eMMC drive for, you know, a small device where, you know, reliability is key, because eMMCs are very good reliability, very low power, all sorts of reasons. But I don't use it because I often change OSs, and you know, this Compute Module 4 unit has been in so many different boards already, and it will be in different boards in the future. So I just don't use the eMMC drive, because I think embedded eMMC drives are just more difficult to use. I'd rather have removable storage that you can just plug in and just use it. So anyway, I'll do what I did before, because I want to try out the legacy version with this anyway. Now I just hit write, and the trouble with that is that you haven't got access to the USB port. And also I haven't enabled remote access, and so I couldn't use it. So I'm going to hit this one, the cog, which allows me to customize it a bit more. So I'll keep the host name the same, enable SSH, use password authentication, set username and password. So I'm just going to put Pi as the password, which you shouldn't do, but I'm only doing it for this demo. Configure wireless LAN, well I don't need to do that because I'm using Ethernet. And let's save that and hit write. and yes. And that won't take very long at all because it's already cached and it's just going to write it straight to the eMMC drive. Now, bearing in mind, when I did this before, late at night, I wasn't really thinking about it, and the idea was to write it to the SD card and play around with it on that. And it's worth mentioning on this point, the instructions are really good. I wasn't reading them. I was playing around with it because I wanted to see what it would do initially and how it worked and everything. So I wasn't following any of the instructions. You can see, by the way, the temperature's a nice cool 45 degrees. It's not struggling at all, and I've been using this for a while. It's reasonably warm in here. If I put my hand on the heatsink, not very much heat coming from that at all. Excellent. Okay, that's all done. So this is what I ended up with before, but I didn't have access to it because I was thinking it's writing it to the SD card. I can manually access the SD card or even put it in a Pi 4 and make all the changes. But when I took out the SD card and tried to reboot from the NVMe drive, I came up with this exact boot screen. So I was thinking I must have overwritten the NVMe drive, but then I remembered that it's an eMMC device and that's what I must have done. So to be able to access this, we need to control it remotely. So I'm going to use my Raspberry Pi 4 for that. I've just started it up. Okay, so let's open a terminal with Control-Alt-T and type in ssh raspberry pi.local, and the password I used was pi. And for some reason that doesn't work, and I've tried this several times, so I know it doesn't work. So what I'm going to do is close that down. But the way I found it did work was if I try and SSH in with LeapESP video at 192.168.1.194, which is the IP address of the Pi, which when I tried to log in before, it told me that was the IP address, but it said that the password was wrong. So let's show you that the password is right. If I type in Pi, it lets me in. I don't understand that. So let's update and upgrade. Let's call up that page with the software information that we need to make the changes on. Just snap that over here. So it's X635 Geekworm, and if we scroll down and go to software, and it talks about enabling the USB ports, because you can see here, if you attempt to boot now, you will not have working USB ports, SSH, or any wireless configuration. Oh, okay, so the SSH isn't working for that reason. Now I'm using it with an Ethernet cable anyway. Okay, well let's wait for this bit to finish. And you can configure the Wi-Fi in this bit, but you can also configure it within Raspberry Pi Imager if you're writing the image with that after you press the cog, as I showed earlier on. Okay, so that's all done. So I just want to put NeoFetch on there just to have a look. And it just confirms that it is my Compute Module 4 with 2 gig of RAM. So now I need to do sudo nano /boot /config.txt, and I need to add in this line that gives me USB support. Where was it? This one here. And also enables me to SSH as well. Let's just add that in. Let's just pop it on the bottom here. Control X, yes, enter, and let's do reboot. Or sudo reboot, and grab the mouse from here and grab the HDMI from here. Make sure I plug it in the right one, and it's booted. Yeah, and I have mouse control now. Excellent. So from the software guide, we've got to enable legacy camera support. So we right click on that. So it's under Raspberry config, so let's copy that and paste it in. Interface, and it's actually a different version here. Look, camera enabled, yes, and OK, because it's different wording. In the newer version it was fine. Is there anything else there? Yeah, I can't see anything else that mentions legacy camera support, so let's finish that and reboot. So now let's copy this command and paste that in, and then I need to reboot again, and we need to check that's working. VC Gen CMD get camera, and you can see here supported 1, detected 1, lib camera interface is 0, and that's exactly as it says in here, so we know that's right. My HDMI source is already plugged in, my computer's been running all this time, so let's do the still test and see what happens. Okay, no errors. We've got, a video of jellyfish. So it's been basically playing videos all this time. And then if we do the video mode, this is again just the default ones that they have for the demo. And it comes up with this not supported, but it is meant to do that. And I can see that that looks like that's recording. So if we run this command, raspi vid-o desktop /video.h264-t 10,000, that will record for 10 seconds. So let's just hit return on that and see what it does. We get a preview. So 1, 2, 3, and you can see on the preview it's looking pretty smooth. I don't think it's really dropping much. It might have dropped 1 frame then, but it's looking pretty good. But when we play it back, it's not great. And this is more the Compute Module 4 than anything, because I'm pretty sure the capture is fine, because I tried it on my Mac just now on another file and it played back okay. So you can see here the playback looks bad, really struggling with it. But on my MacBook, that same file looks much better. So it's definitely the Compute Module 4 struggling to play that back with VLC that is part of the problem. There is an alternate way to capture, and that's by something called GStreamer. You can see here for advanced programmers and advanced applications. If we click on the link, GStreamer is a pipeline-based multimedia framework that links various media processes to a complex workflow. And there's all sorts of information in here. And this is, so customizable. If you have a look at some of the commands you can use to take images or video. So 640 by 480, video convert, video scale, clock overlay time, date format you can see in this image here. So I might cover that in a future video, but this video is probably long enough as it is. I was going to show how to wipe the eMMC drive off. So let's show that. Let's close all this down and shut down. So here's the board. You can see the cooler on the top, and you can see the green of the Compute Module 4 GPIO pins on the side here. I've put these little feet on the bottom just so that the NVMe drive is raised up. They didn't come with it, but I've just sort of added them on as an extra. And if I want to be able to write to the eMMC drive, what I've got to do is put this little header, which comes in the package, on top of here, and push that down on top of the boot pins that you can see there. So that now will work as a removable drive. And I can plug it in with a USB A to A cable. Now one came in the box, but I like to use dongles. So here's a USB C to C cable with a couple of USB C to A adapters. So let's plug that in there and then plug it into my Pi. And I've used Jeff Geerling's guide, which is a really good guide on how to update a Compute Module 4. So once you've installed the necessary, which is RPI boot, you then need to CD into USB boot and then sudo./RPI boot, and you can see it will start to mount the machine so I can use it like a removable drive. So now if I start up Raspberry Pi Imager, so choose OS, now I'm just going to say erase, choose storage, and this is the 16 gig eMMC drive on the Compute Module 4, and then hit write and yes, and it won't take very long because it's just erasing what's on there. There you go, so that's all done. So now I can shut down my Raspberry Pi 4. So now I've plugged it all back in again. I've taken out the SD card because that wasn't used all the way through the video. Take off this little tiny header. There we go. And now I can boot up. And it should start up with the NVMe drive as normal. And it has. So all running from the NVMe drive underneath, because there's nothing on the eMMC drive, and that's the way I like it. I have also got this one to test. This is a NAS case for CM4. and you can see they do a 2.5 inch version or an M.2 version. I've got the M.2 version, so I'll show that in another video. But I hope all this helps. Thanks to Geekworm for sending me the products, and the mysterious thing in the cardboard box, which will show up in a later video. Okay, thanks very much for watching. Please like and subscribe.